Hey, City Cast listeners, it's Megan. Small Business Saturday is almost here, and we've got a direct and easy way to support local innovation. Honeycomb Credit is based here in the city, and it lets people like us focus our valuable donation dollars on the businesses and causes that we love most. In fact, Small Business Saturday is Honeycomb's biggest day of the year, and to celebrate, they're waiving all investor fees. Check out honeycombcredit.com/citycast to look for investment opportunities in your neighborhood. Today on City Cast Pittsburgh, Mayor Ed Gainey made a bunch of promises on Monday about his hopes and dreams for 2024, and we're dissecting a few of his top priorities that piqued our interest. Plus, our region's biggest grocery store is making big changes to its gas savings program, and somehow tomorrow is already light up night. We've got the highlights and a few pro tips to keep you cozy among the crowd. It's November 17th, the Friday News Roundup. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh is talking about. I'm with City Cast Mallory Falk.
Good morning.
And Mary Lee Williams. Welcome.
Hello.
Some fun news around here. Both of you got promotions this week. The title lead producer was always a little confusing to me, so I am delighted to call you both executive producer now.
It is truthfully the shortest time that I've gotten a promotion. But
I here for what, 3 days?
24 hours.
Mary Lee will be with us for the next several months while Mallory here enjoys some much needed family time and the good baby snuggles.
I'm excited to be cheering on the team and the city of Pittsburgh from parental leave.
Well, before we get into today's show, we've been getting a lot of new listeners. So first of all, welcome. We're here to help you learn more about Pittsburgh, from the latest news to what's happening in the city. If you're not used to our Friday shows, usually we cover a lot of ground. So we're going to kick it off with Mayor Gainey this week, who gave his State of the City address. It's typically like the start of budget season, sort of like an aspirational speech that lets everyone know his goals for the next year. Doesn't mean that council will necessarily agree or that they'll get things exactly how they hoped, but it's like a nice declarative moment to get everyone on the same page, or at least, I guess, get set up for any battles that might be to come. The whole speech was an hour long. We will link to it in the show notes. But if you're really curious, for today, we thought we would each talk about one thing that resonated with us for whatever reason. Mallory, you want to kick us off?
Sure. So, the state of Pittsburgh's bridges has been on everyone's minds since the Fern Hollow collapse. We actually did an episode last year about whether or not you should still be nervous. You should be crossing your fingers as you cross them, and everyone shared their strategy for crossing a questionable bridge. So, Mary Lee, as the newest member of the team, I'm curious if there's any routine ritual you go through when you're crossing a bridge that feels a little shaky.
Well, I don't drive a ton. I usually bike. And so
that's a different calculus.
It is. It's a very different calculus in the sense that, like, if I'm on a bike, it's the shortest route to get off the bridge if I know that it's going to collapse. If there is no getting off the bridge, I suppose
it is just your time.
I need to very quickly make peace with a lot of things. I don't know.
Easier to dismount a bike in the water than escape from a car, though.
Yes, but you're also not in the protective metal cage of a car.
So what's Gainey's plan?
Anyway, so, in that episode, we talked about how the 2023 budget had not set aside a ton of money for bridge construction, and that's going to be different this coming year if this proposal goes through. Gainey's proposed budget sets aside more than $86 million for engineering and construction projects. That includes more than a dozen bridge projects. He says this proposal is a 300% increase in spending on bridge maintenance and repairs compared to the last 4 years. And he's also calling for 4 new bridge maintenance staffers. So, the nervousness many of us felt when it didn't seem like there was going to be a ton of progress this past year, hopefully that's been put at ease a little bit.
Yeah, I think notably the whole budget address began with, we're not proposing a lot of new stuff. We're going to try to fix the backlog of old stuff.
Well, so jumping off the bridges conversation, one thing that I thought was really interesting in Gainey's discussion was when he brought up something called Vision Zero. We have a quote from Gainey during the speech.
This year, we have seen too many of our residents lose their lives in traffic-related accidents. All these deaths are preventable. And this is why we are committing to a vision of zero traffic-related fatalities so that we can have all the tools we need to keep our residents safe.
So one thing he's talking about here is this movement that started in the 1990s in Sweden, and it was to end all traffic fatalities and severe injuries. And the idea behind Vision Zero, it's all about changing our mindset that traffic deaths and these severe injuries are preventable, and we need to create safer systems for safe mobility for all the people that use the roads that we have, not just people in cars, people who are walking, people on bikes, people who might be using wheelchairs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, the roads are for everyone, and so we should create systems to make them safe for everyone.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you guys saw this video from Pittsburgh Police. They posted it this week. It's of a wheelchair user trying to cross the intersection of Center Avenue and North Craig Street. It went kind of viral. I mean, I don't know if you guys know about this intersection or you've been through it.
I have, and I also saw the video, and it's pretty horrific to witness.
I know the intersection. I have not seen the video because you told me not to watch it.
Yes, it's not like graphic. I am going to preface it that, Megan, but I do think that having you react to it would be interesting and kind of illustrates this whole thing we're talking about.
Okay, I'm pressing play. I should know there's no sound to this video.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh. That kind of comes out of nowhere. That's horrible. Yeah, it's a white sedan that hits a wheelchair user and like kind of skids them deep into the intersection. That's awful.
Yeah, they don't fall off.
They don't
the
fall. They don't
obviously.
fall. But like, it is exactly what it sounds like. It is a car hitting a human being in a somewhat unprotected space. That's terrible.
And then continuing on its way.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's a hit and run.
Yeah, they just keep rolling.
Yeah, so I mean, the kind of idea behind Vision Zero is that this stuff is preventable. We can do things in our cities to make things safer for everybody on the road. So we shouldn't be afraid to cross an intersection.
And Mary Lee, I know you're a pretty big cyclist. I was a cyclist before I became 9 months pregnant and unable to pedal anymore. But this is, you're coming at this from a very specific place, right?
Yeah. So I bike a lot. So does my husband. We also have some people on this team, the City Cast team, that don't drive. One thing is that, I've attended memorial rides in this city for people who have been killed. And it's really this harrowing thing. It's like every time I get on my bike or every time my husband gets on his bike, I kind of have to deal with this fear that I'm going to be hit by a car and I'm going to die. That's a much more present fear than a bridge collapsing for me. So one thing that Gainey talked about in his speech, that traffic calming is the most requested service from residents. And in his speech, he's proposing 136% increase in funding for traffic calming. And when he's talking about it's the most requested thing from residents, I do think we need to take into consideration that like residents can make requests from the city for things in like a variety of ways. We have 311, you have meetings that you can go to, you could call up people and make requests. And so I think that it's important to take that in consideration.
Can you just share like what traffic calming actually means if this is a new concept to somebody?
So Gainey listed lane restriction or reductions, two-way conversions, and speed bumps. I am so skeptical that anybody in a neighborhood really wants a speed bump if they drive, just because people fuss about them so much. But I think the rest, like I could totally get on board with until you see, I feel like we need to call out Lil Swervy again in Brighton Heights, because it's supposed to be a roundabout, but it is on the tiniest, most narrow little street. Excellent at traffic calming, but also sort of a nightmare to get around.
Well, I mean, I think when we talk about speed bumps, and I think, coming at this from the perspective of if people are requesting it, speed bumps slow people down. Like they slow down cars, and that's safer for everybody, even people in cars. Because like if you're trying to back out of your driveway and somebody's super speeding down your street, that's really dangerous for you.
Oh, I'm with you. I think I'm skeptical that anybody's requesting a speed bump. I absolutely believe that people are requesting cars to go an appropriate speed in every neighborhood. I just think the application of it is probably sometimes what some drivers may be like, oh, dang, that is not what I meant. Okay.
Motorists might not be requesting speed bumps, but I imagine people who get around in other ways could be.
Yeah. And that's not to say we shouldn't do it anyway. I could imagine somebody being like, oh, dang. Okay. I guess I got what I asked for.
So I do think that the last thing I want to say on this point is that a lot of cities can say like they're going to commit to this Vision Zero mentality. They're going to commit to this. But if they're not putting funding behind it, it's kind of like, I'm saying I'm doing something, but am I really doing something?
Yeah.
I do think it will be interesting to see kind of how this plays out through the budget process, because putting money towards making streets safer, improving safety around mobility, it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening.
Yeah. So last up, we were kind of interested in what Gainey had to say about homicides in our area. He said he wants to see 0 in the whole city, which I admire, a lofty goal. We don't really have any real-time data from public safety about this year that like the public can access on a regular basis. There is a dashboard, but it's not very good, and it was last updated in June. He says that there's been a year-over-year reduction in homicides, and that investigators have cleared over 80% of recent crimes. So that means brought someone to justice or have at least filed charges. We checked with public safety. As of today, they said there have been 46 homicides in the city of Pittsburgh. At this point last year, there were 64. Now we still have 6 weeks to go, but that means Gainey's right, and we are down by more than a quarter year over year. The county is a little bit stickier. The Trib reports that as of November 1st, there have been 92, and that's compared to almost 120 people last year.
It's kind of interesting that this data is coming out at the same time that there's just been like so much conversation this year, and we've seen it, play out in our most recent election cycle around an increase in crime. I'm not necessarily...
Or the perception of it.
The perception of an increase in crime, this perception that especially downtown Pittsburgh is out of control. And it's always important to compare that against the actual data.
I do think that the conversation around homicides, the conversation around safety, it does kind of come off what came up in the 2023 budget, which is like the Downtown Ambassador Program, community violence intervention teams, and then the $1 million in grants that went to community organizations to help prevent violence. So did we see a lot of this stuff like play out?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what Gainey credits all of these changes to. The co-response program launched in earnest this year. That's where teams of social workers and dedicated police officers are dispatched to people in crisis, at least that they know about in advance, to try to connect them to resources they need. This is Gainey talking about one high point this year.
In just one 3-week window earlier this year, the team successfully prevented 3 suicides, reversed dozens of overdoses, and returned a number of our unhoused residents with their families.
And then there's also the Roots Outreach Team, which he says is expanding in 2024. And he also threw out a line about the rec centers and getting our pools open, because he says, if people are in community with safe spaces to be in, then they're not as likely to be getting up to trouble. So our region's biggest grocer, Giant Eagle, is making a big change to its rewards program. The FuelPerks thing, I don't know if y'all have ever used this, that they've been doing for years, where you buy groceries and it gives you discounts on gas, usually in increments of 10 cents at a time. It's ending and getting rolled into a My Perks program. Same Advantage card with your phone number and all that, but it's a different way to use your discounts.
Megan, I think you might be the only one on the team who actually uses this. I've found that Costco has the cheapest gas around.
Yes.
So that's where I tend to fuel up whenever I'm making a Costco run, or more realistically, my partner is. He's the Costco fan in our family.
Yeah, I mean, I've only recently actually got to take advantage of this because of the switch to My Perks. So I always live by a bunch of Giant Eagle stores, but not a single convenient get-go. So as a shopper, it's been really nice lately to, instead of having my fuel perks just go unused because they expired after a while, now I get to use those same little bonuses in the checkout line at the store. Like, say I have a $25 grocery purchase, I'm checking out, and during the payment process, it'll say, hey, you've got $1 off. Do you want to use it now or save it for later? So I have no idea actually if the math on these point systems, like, it feels really hard to decipher. So I don't know if the discount now is better than it used to be, but it feels a lot more functional for someone like me who has been getting groceries with them off and on for a long time, but I never bought gas from their brands.
So this is important information, or maybe not important information, depending on who you are and your shopping habits, but the accounts will automatically get switched over on January 25th. And Giant Eagle says that customers don't have to do anything.
Or you can do it yourself manually on the app. That's what I did, a few weeks ago.
To get a head start.
It actually just prompted me when I opened it because I was considering doing the order in advance thing, but online shopping stresses me out. I didn't finish my order.
Well, the GE's also been advertising this Advantage Pay program. Is that part of this whole switchover or something different?
I've been meaning to research Advantage Pay anyway, so this roundup has been very helpful for me personally. According to their website, you link your Advantage card to your checking accounts, and then it acts something like a debit card. That made me a little nervous, but I know it's not too far off Venmo, so I'm trying to chill out about it. They claim that the price will drop anywhere from 5 to 30 cents off your gas, depending on which get-go you're at. I can confirm that all of the get-goes I personally pass on the way to work all advertise 30 cents off right now, which is why this whole thing feels really, really tempting. They say that it's safe and pin-based. I don't know. I'm intrigued, but I'm not sold yet.
I'm glad that you're intrigued. I shall not be changing any of my shopping habits. I'm just going to figure it out as I go. But good on you. All right. So now we're moving on to a big event this weekend, a big event, Light Up Night.
I think it's big. I mean, it's a big crowd if you're downtown on the evening of Light Up Night, which is Saturday this year.
So what is going to be happening at Light Up Night? I have basically been out of town for every single Light Up Night that has happened. And this year, I'm also yet again going to be out of town for Light Up Night. So tell me what's going on so I can have FOMO.
Also, even though I grew up in Pittsburgh, I have no memory of ever going to Light Up Night as a kid. I don't know if that's because we were Jewish or it's normally around Thanksgiving. We were always out of town.
It's a lot of people in a small space.
I don't know that a sparkly Christmas tree is enough to make me want to stand in the cold with a ginormous crowd.
I've been to a few of them. I think, 4 or 5 in recent years, not the last few. I haven't been to one post-pandemic, but it's a lot of people. They light up the Horns Christmas tree on the corner of Penn and Stanwix. It's the one that's sort of wrapped around a building. If it's not up already, usually the Christmas tree is lit on the point. And then they have all kinds of activities and things. The German shopping village is in Market Square. They usually have ice sculptors, which is kind of cool to watch. That I like going down to Light Up Night on the afternoon before any of the festivities when it's still daylight out. Because the ice sculptures, for example, are all lit up and beautiful at night. But if you go in the afternoon, they're still doing them because, you can't really pre-do that. They don't advance do it. So it's just these dudes and women with chainsaws out there sculpting ice, which is kind of fun. I think there's going to be some fun performers this year.
Yeah. So at Highmark's Holiday Block Party, there's going to be Phillips from American Idol. They're going to be headlining the Riverside stage. And then there's also going to be Clara Kent. She's a DJ, but she's also a well-known performer in town. I think, she does a lot of stuff. And then there's going to be some other people. So we'll link to the events page in our show notes.
And then I think they're going to have a Santa Claus. They always have a Santa Claus at Heinz Hall. Donations go to the Pittsburgh Community Food Bank. The Sister Bridges are doing a weird thing with lights this year.
Yeah, there's going to be some kind of display created by this artist and lighting designer. I'm not quite sure exactly what it'll look like, but I am really intrigued by that. To me, that seeing the bridges lit up in any kind of new, interesting way is more of a draw actually than the Christmas tree. That is something I would like to check out.
Yeah, Sister Bridges, by the way, if you're not familiar, are the Roberto Clemente, the Andy Warhol, and the Rachel Carson. They're the ones that all look like each other that go up the Allegheny.
So, Megan, you mentioned this earlier about the tree at Point State Park.
Yeah, it's not been up for a while. I was actually really skeptical watching sporting events here because, during Penn's games and Steelers games, they always do city skyline shots. And I'm like, wait, why is the point still on? Why is the fountain still on? It should have been covered by a Christmas tree weeks ago, and it's not.
Well, so basically what's going to be happening is there was this big uproar when there was a decision that was made to retire the tree at the historical grounds at Fort Duquesne, which is in Point State Park. A lot of Pittsburghers got upset. There was a petition that came out to kind of bring the tree back. It got a lot of signatures. And so basically there was this competition that happened, and now we are going to be having a replacement tree, and it's going to be called the Three Rivers tree. And Pittsburgh Magazine reported that this tree is going to have a lot of sustainability features. There's going to be a lot of LED lights and, quote, water ballast as its foundation to protect the grounds of the park. And that's going to be on display through January 8th.
So y'all aren't light up night aficionados, but do you have any downtown pro tips? Anything that you would suggest for anybody if you know you're going to be in a crowd or traffic downtown? Because Mary Lee, I know you hate downtown traffic.
I hate traffic. Don't take a car.
I think that's a great tip.
Buses.
Yeah.
If it's possible for you to bike, please bike. Or, if you feel safe biking, we also have the Three Rivers Heritage Trail if you're coming from anywhere where you could kind of connect that way. Traffic sucks.
Don't bring a car into downtown on light up night. That is mine. If you can avoid it in any way, park on the north side, park in the south, take the T in. It's way, way better of an experience if you don't have to try to navigate that.
And if you're going along the Heritage Trail, you're going to see the bridges lit up in this special way with this special show. It would probably be a pretty magical bike ride in town.
I will say if you're biking at night, please also have your own lights. It's a safety thing. It's really important to make sure you're visible when it's dark outside.
And the low temperature as we're recording for Saturday night is 33. So you might also want to pack something like a hand warmer or a toasty beverage in a canteen of your choosing. If you're one that you maybe like to party a little bit, then you could choose something fun for your canteen. But having something to keep yourself warm or at least feel comfortable ducking into different kinds of spaces would be advisable. It can get really, really chilly even surrounded by that many people.
And if you need a bathroom, there are usually porta potties aplenty downtown for you. So keep your eye open.
It's the one thing about big events like this that we have plentiful bathrooms downtown. Imagine. That's all for today here on City Cast Pittsburgh. Our music is by Benji. Mallory Fogg is our executive producer, and our interim EP is Mary Lee Williams. Sophia Lowe and Elizabeth Kalma produced the show this week. Francesca DeBecco writes our newsletter, and I'm your host, Megan Harris. We'll be back on Monday with more news from around the city. Have a great weekend, everyone.
I'm not a cannibal. I'm just a Scorpio.